I've done that thing where I've made a massive PowerPoint with far too much information to give you. So I'm slightly inclined to sort of talk off the cuff a little bit and refer to the PowerPoint where I need it. So I think there's a number of quite important things to cover in terms of the process, but also the philosophy from which I and we at Westonbirt will be approaching this. So in terms of the key dates and the key process, oh Lordy, come on. The joys. So the key dates, really, at the moment, you are in a researching phase. So the students are looking for what they want to do in the future, researching their different options, and starting to make decisions about the courses to apply for. Now, over the summer holidays, and indeed at the moment, some of our students aren't here now because they're at Oxford Brookes Open Day. So going to open days, you can go in person, but because of COVID, a lot of open day stuff is available online now. So you can attend virtual open days and that kind of thing if needed. But the summer holidays are really a time for that wider reading and research into choosing chosen courses and shortlisting options. All right, come on in. Over the summer holidays, everyone should complete a first draft of the personal statement. It doesn't need to be brilliant. It doesn't need to be a final draft, but that first day back, we will be looking at those personal statements. So as parents, it's useful for you to know that we do expect some personal statement work to go on over the summer holidays. And as I say, if it's not very good, that's not the end of the world. That's fine, but we want something to be done. Then autumn, we redraft the personal statement. We often completely start from scratch. That's all normal. And then the UCAS applications get sent off during that first term. During the course of autumn and spring, offers will be received and you will choose your firm and insurance choices. Now, if you were to receive 3 offers, you choose your firm option will be the one that you really want to go to, your most aspirational one usually the one with the highest entry requirements, and your insurance is your safety school. So if you are on a course for BBB and someone has made an offer of ABB, that might be your firm choice, and your safety school might be BBB or even BBC. Now, quite often, it's not about the entry requirements, it's about the university. And I do get students say to me, the one I really want to go to has lower entry requirements than this one. What do I do? You make that your firm if that's the one that you're firmly committed to go to. But what about my insurance option? Well, you're probably not going to go to it. You're only going to go to one university, so it's fine. So the key dates that you really need to know about: May this year, UCAS has been opened. Everyone should have set up a UCAS account and should have linked it to the school by this point. So September the 5th, first draft of personal statement completed, because that's when we start back at school. Okay. Now, as I say, that first draft doesn't need to be wonderful, and I don't want too much pressure on that, but I want a little bit of pressure to do something. October the 15th is the deadline for Oxbridge Medicine, Veterinary Sciences, Dentistry. November the 15th is the school's sort of nominal deadline for all applications. I have a bit of my principle is no application off after Christmas. And for the first several years, that was the case. I have noticed things slipping over the last few years, and I think COVID probably has something to do with that. But it's not something I massively approve of. Last year, I sent, a couple of years ago, I sent off a couple in the Christmas holidays, which was one thing. This year, about 4 or 5 applications went off in January, which is fine. They have offers, etc. But I disapprove of it. You should have done it in the autumn term. So I'm saying this to parents now. I don't want to send things off after Christmas. If it means the first couple of days of the Christmas holidays, I have to field some emails, make some calls and send it off, that's fine. So if you really can't handle the stress of it during term time, you need to finish off in the holidays, that's okay, but not January, before Christmas, really. Now, January 15th is the final true deadline for all applications. It's actually not January the 15th, it's actually January the 25th these days. I'd rather say January the 15th, because if you think that's the real deadline, again, it will give you that little bit of incentive maybe. Now, in May, that is when you usually receive your final offers or rejections from university. There is often a bit of misunderstanding about this. Some people think, well, Exeter haven't got back to me, so they're going to reject me. Actually, Exeter, UCL, Imperial College, a lot of the very most competitive universities like to take their sweet time about giving people offers because they can afford to. They know that people are likely to choose them, but also because they want to give everyone due consideration. Do feel free to unfold a chair if you would like one. So you can't read too much into how long it takes a university to reply to you. They reply when they reply. So in May, and it's in late May, and you might do it before May, that is the deadline for choosing your firm and insurance place. Okay, and then August is results day. Okay. School procedures and pupil responsibilities. I just want to highlight the pupil responsibilities a little bit here, that over the summer holidays, you should be doing further research into universities, discussions with family, work experience, wider reading, preparing first draft of personal statement, all of that stuff. It's really important that you're doing your research. The two best tools that you can use are Unifrog, which you know about, and also UCAS Course Search. The UCAS Course Search has massively improved itself. 2 years ago, Unifrog did a load of stuff that UCAS didn't. Now, UCAS does a load of stuff that Unifrog doesn't. So you've got to use both. Now, I want to talk to you a little bit about the philosophy which I and we have in mind. Every piece of advice has to be individual. Context is everything. You cannot generalize. What is right for one student is not right for another student. So if I say something to Jack, it's no good Tom then thinking that that applies to him. It might not. We do not push an agenda. School figures such as a percentage going to Russell groups, et cetera. Yes, that's something that I get asked about. It's something that the school obviously likes to have in mind. I do not push it on individuals. It is never a consideration when talking to an individual about their choice. Non-university routes are valid and vital. Not everyone will go to university, and that's absolutely fine. It is what is right for the individual. So again, I do not push people into university for the sake of, 97% of our students go to university. I don't care. That's not my job. Your future is your own. So you actually need to research it carefully. You can't drift through this. You need to make sure that you're, dotting the I's and crossing the T's as you go along, because it is your future. You cannot expect me to have checked everything about your future for you. People sometimes do, and sometimes that's okay, but you need to be making sure that you're checking things. Studying something that you can be passionately interested in for 3 years is probably a good use of your time. There's a lot of questions around employability and all of these things, and these are considerations that you should have in mind, but sometimes we are a little bit lost when we're 17. That's quite normal. A lot of people are quite lost when they're 21. So studying something that is going to develop you as a person, that is going to develop you academically because you're interested in it, is probably a good use of your time. You'll work out what to do at the end of it. So I have a little bit of a sense of who will you become in 5 years. And now that I'm 20 years older than most the young people, I have that in mind as well. I do think about what are you going to be like when you're my age? How's your life going to pan out? And I have these little ideas in mind, but I also have this in mind. Chance and minor happenings dictate much of what happens in life. Probably everyone over the age of 30 in this room can think about a very chance happening that has completely changed the shape of their life. I was looking at teacher of English jobs, and I saw head of English at Weston Burt School. I didn't want to go for a head of English job. And a colleague of mine happened to look and he said, "Oh, you'll be bored then, mate. I went for a job there, I didn't like it." I was like, "Oh, why is it boring?" He said, "Oh, it's high tea at 4 o'clock and there's only one other English teacher." And I said, "So I'm not head of a massive department?" No, it's just two of you. Great. And I applied. Had he not been standing there at that moment, I wouldn't be standing here at this one. You know, and that's life. Little things change everything. So I kind of take the pressure off myself a little bit, because I may make a throwaway comment that will change all sorts of things for you, but equally, that's just how life works. And you know, I'm thinking about my brother. He did African studies at university, and my parents basically sent him off upstairs and said, here's the UCAS directory, because there was no internet in those days, go and choose a course. And he came down at the end of the evening and said, I think I want to do anthropology. He didn't quite get the grades in the end, so he then changed courses to Swahili and African studies, which set him on course for the life that he led. I recently discovered that actually my father had very carefully left the book open on the anthropology page to steer him towards that. But these little, following your gut instinct often puts you on the right course, and we work out where we're going. But I think there's some important things for you to be aware of when looking for a university course that's right for you. The TEF framework is a new measure. It's the Teaching Excellence Framework. Sorry, it's just the TEF. The framework is irrelevant. It's like saying PIN number. Newer universities tend to do better than older universities on the TEF. Older universities tend to be more research focused. So they tend to be less interested in the quality of their teaching. That's not always true, but that is often true. Newer universities, which often have lower entry requirements, often also have a lower status in terms of their research. You are not going there to research, you are going there to learn. So for a lot of people, even for our very brightest students, going to a less reputable university will give you a better academic experience than going to a very famous one. The flip side is a very famous one will tend to make you more employable, but that tendency is not as clear as it used to be. You know, gone are the days where big employers say, we will only be accepting Oxbridge applicants. And some of us in this room are probably old enough to remember those days, that only Oxbridge applicants could apply for certain jobs. That's not a thing anymore. So the TEF framework, the TEF. Entry requirements, obviously you need to check the entry requirements. If you're not going to get those grades, you shouldn't be applying for that course. The location, there's the old 2 circles, nowhere within this radius and nowhere outside of that radius. As parents, sometimes we want them at least an hour away so we don't have to do their washing, but no more than 4 hours away because it's a long way to drive if anything goes wrong. And that's up to a particular family to manage how they think about that. Campus or city, very different university experiences. Campus universities tend to be outside of a university on a closed campus, have a little bit of a village feel to them. I went to one, can't imagine what it's like going to a city university, but people seem to enjoy that. So yeah, think about these things, because it might be that you particularly want one or the other. The specifics of modules on offer. I went to University of East Anglia to do English literature because University of East Anglia was one of 2 universities that taught creative writing, which was what I really wanted to learn. Look at what's on offer for your particular course. You need to choose what you want to do. The modes of assessment. Now, for some of you, that'll be more important than others, but if you're someone who really can't be doing with exams, okay, is it going to be a coursework heavy course or an exam heavy course? What are you going to be successful at? And it will vary from university to university. I put this lower down the list. Reputation of institution, it is something that one should consider, but if Exeter is going to grind you to dust, it doesn't matter that it has a good reputation. If it's not suitable for you, it doesn't matter. And I've certainly had those conversations with lots of students over the year. I had one student a good few years ago who came along with all very top Russell Group universities, A, none of which would have accepted her, and B, none of which she would have been remotely happy or successful in. So then we worked out a different list. She's really thriving. She's getting on really well. It is what is right for the individual. Access arrangements, that will be important for some of you. And that's that student I have in mind. She needed different access arrangements in terms of her assessment. She would not have been able to do the assessments at Exeter University, whereas Brighton University, for example, said, if that's how you learn, then you don't have to do that form of assessment. We will give you this form of assessment instead. So that will matter to some of you and not to others. But you can look into these things and you can talk to them. Right. I'm going to make this PowerPoint available to you all because it's got some interesting stuff from a conference I went to several years ago. So I'm just going to slide through a lot of these slides, but just notice here, this is employability rates. It's from 2014, so it's 8 years ago now. But humanities and sciences, less employable than STEM, less employable than economics and business. That's why business is the most popular course. You've got the 30 top unis, the 13 top unis, and Oxford and Cambridge. So those employability statistics, you can see a clear trend there. As I say, I think you will find those trends diminishing. I'm not going to read you this. It's a little critique against the older universities by a brand new university, which you can read on your own time if you're particularly interested. We talk about internships and the importance of those. That will be a thing that you need to consider probably after university in terms of your employability. Internships are a huge way in. One of the things that I've learned about recently is this fox versus hedgehog. The fox is good at lots of things. A hedgehog is a specialist. Degrees and indeed education post-16 in the UK tends to produce hedgehogs. That is a trend that is diminishing. More and more multidisciplinary degrees are on offer. They are increasingly popular. Ultimately, if you really want to be a fox, you probably need to study in somewhere like America, which has a much broader system of education at a university level. What else do I want to talk about? Look, there are completely different pathways that you can choose. Now, probably none of you will, but I will put it out there. There is Minerva University, which is all distance learning. This was before COVID. So this is a picture of Minerva University. Now, this looks probably very familiar to all of us now. When I went to the conference in 2018, this was not a thing. So post-COVID, institutions like Minerva, which are non-campus based, which are online, are increasingly prevalent. Ultimately, they're probably more for access to people who cannot afford or worry about affording the fees at full-time university, which, this being a private school, is probably less of a concern. Okay. But you've got various new types of university, a kind of a sixth wave, basically, of universities forming, which you may want to look into, or you may not. Degree apprenticeships are now a thing. Our brightest year 13 student this year is going off to do a degree apprenticeship. Okay, they are fiendishly competitive. They are offered by major employers. You spend part of your time in employment and part of your time completing a bachelor's degree. But that is on the cards as well if you are interested in it. As I say, the brightest girl in year 13 is going off to do that this year. So you get 5 choices at UCAS. I think it should look like this: a long shot that you probably won't get an offer from, an aspirational one, which you might, and then somewhat secure, reasonably secure, and an absolutely safe. And I just sort of made this note that 100% success rate for applications as a school is probably a bad thing. It means everyone's playing things terribly safe. I had a conversation with someone over Christmas because he was late this year, and I rang his mother and I said, look, he's applied for, I forget where, I think it was Cardiff, and then he's applied for a load of universities. He's definitely going to get 4 offers. So why doesn't he just choose one of them and then apply for 3 places he probably won't get an offer from? Because if you're definitely going to get one of those offers, there's no point in applying to 3 other places. You only need 1 offer. You only go to 1 university. So I'm quite happy for people to get some rejections, because you only need 1 or 2 offers. So you should be a little bit aspirational with these things. Post sixth form pathways, UK university, hello, international university, degree apprenticeships. Then we're into full-time employment or training, or perhaps internship. I'm not going to have time to talk about gap years, but what I would just note is students who do gap years outperform students who do not on an academic level. Doing a gap year and having that break from education makes you a better student, not a worse student. I would also say that doing something worthy in your gap year is entirely a young person's choice. It's probably going to be very difficult to explore the world in 10 or 20 years. Flying is going to get more and more expensive. The pound is probably going to be less competitive. It's an excellent time to go and explore and have an adventure. I would, having done that twice, I would counsel you as parents to encourage that.
Does that apply to any degree, or is there a tendency for sort of sciences and that sort of thing to carry on through? As I
understand, I don't know, but as I understand the science of it, the brain is still developing until the age of 24. So an older brain is a better brain. So older students are just smarter than younger students, and that's why they outperform them. I don't know if that applies to all degrees, but I know that it is a general truth. The TLDR, too long didn't read. Personal statements need to be drafted over the holidays. This will require a bit of wider reading. Students should have a clear idea what they wish to apply for and a short list of institutions by the end of the summer holidays. If you don't, that's what I'm here for. It happens every year. It's something I really love as part of my job, that I get to work with young people and explore their future with them. So if you haven't decided by the end of the summer holidays, it's not the end of the world, but hopefully you'll have some ideas that we can work from. UCAS applications should be sent off before Christmas, and I'm in charge of this process, so keep me in the loop. Sometimes you get students who get a bit furtive. There's no point being furtive about it. I have to send it off. When you send off your UCAS application, it goes to me. I have to send it afterwards. It doesn't send itself. So you mustn't be furtive, because it has to go through me. So please keep me in the loop about these things. That's everything I have to say. In terms of other routes, they are always a little bit idiosyncratic by definition. So we work it out with the individual. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Well, just on that, with the other routes, so for those of you who don't know me, haven't met me yet, I'm Mrs. Ash. I've been teaching all your young people careers, but I'm also now head of sixth form. And it's been fantastic talking to them over the last couple of weeks about routes and options and where they all think they want to go and what they want to do. And we do have a number of pupils who do not want to go down the university route, and I am very happy that we will be able to support them with that. So I think if everything that you've heard today has not cemented the UCAS route for you, the best thing that we can do, because of the fact that it is a very individual route from that point forward, is for us to have one-to-ones about those options. And my door is always open, as you all know, and that applies for parents as well. So if you'd like to have a chat about any options that are not UCAS related, then please do get in touch.
Now, it occurs to me that it's 4:30 on the dot, which is when some of your appointments are supposed to start. I will be loitering for a good half an hour if anyone wants to talk to me. Does anyone have a burning question they want to shout out first? Fine, I will loiter. Thank you, everyone. There's tea and coffee and even wine provided.
Wine, yeah. Right, I think my first one is over 1:30.
Right. Thank you.